Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Kevin's Toy Box. As this is coming out on the day Rebirth hits cinemas, we will be reviewing the Rumble and Rampage Belugasaurus Rex. While most people like Zainreborn and his brother weren't too jazzed about the D-Rex upon its reveal, I, however, loved it because I knew it was a beluga with muscly arms. You think this thing was made with xenomorph and rancor DNA? No, it's a beluga, a T-Rex, and a chimpanzee. That's the only explanation. So let's get it out of the box. Oh, that was easy. And get a good look at this massive beast. Where do we even begin with this review? I suppose we'll start with the sculpt, but it's gonna be hard to judge since we haven't seen it on screen just yet. Starting off with the forehead, we have to subtract some points because the beluga head isn't squishy, which is very sad. Another downside is the teeth. I'm glad that they're still rubber and sharp, but it's just the way they're inserted. It's so obvious that they're not part of the mouth. It just sticks out. You can see the gum lines, and it just doesn't look that nice, you know? I mean, outside it does, but when you open up and look inside, it's not that nice. So looking at the head, you just see the eye is in the wrong spot, but then you just look at the rest of the head and it's like, yeah, I can see a dinosaur, but oh, there's a massive tumor on his head. You know, the theme is mutants and things gone wrong, so it just makes sense, you know? But back to Belugasaurus's cons, the eye does not have a printed pupil. It's just that same eye they put on all the cheaper dinosaur toys, but since this is one of the more expensive ones, that is a big no-no. I cannot approve of that. Then again, when this thing was first revealed, a lot of people didn't think it even had eyes. They were barely visible. Then again, the whole thing was shrouded in shadow, so it makes sense that people didn't see the eyes until much, much later. But enough about the cons, let's talk some positives, which is the sculpt. I really like how it's like the usual dinosaur texturing, but there's random bumps coming out, like tiny little growths, and then there's wrinkles where the arms are meant to be. Mattel has always been good at dinosaur sculpt, so I'm really not surprised. Unfortunately, can't really say the same for the paint. I mean, it has more paint than I originally thought the Distortus was supposed to have. But like, you know, it's like the brown on the head, which goes down to a bit past the thigh. You can't see it because I'm sitting on top of it. Which is usually a lot more than you usually expect from these toys, but like, still, they could have made it go out to the tail at least. And as for the white that starts from the jaw, that one does not go down to the thighs. It stops at the front limbs, which is sad but expected. There is a nice transition to darker brown on the front limbs, and the front arms are completely white. Let's take a minute to talk about those. They're meant to be useless tiny T-Rex arms, but like, they're pretty big and muscular. Like, I think the D-Rex could still effectively use those. Although it's most likely gonna be using the big monkey arms, which unfortunately, all 4 front limbs don't have any nail paint. Again, for a toy that costs so much, that's really bad. But unfortunately, I don't think Mattel's ever going to paint claws on their mainline toys ever again. Because even the toes aren't painted. They're just a separate piece of plastic, which is, it's great for the feet, but that means they're basically confirming they will never paint the claws on the fingers ever again. Unless it's Hammond Collection. And even then, you better watch out, because it depends on if it's a carnivore or a herbivore. They may not paint everyone's nails. Speaking of legs, we have these giant, juicy thighs that we've come to expect from these toys at this point. Honestly, the back half of this toy is basically just a regular dinosaur. Only difference being that the tail is much shorter compared to regular dinosaurs, but like, I don't think it really needs the tail since it's a quadruped. Oh, but what if it really tapped into its monkey DNA and used that tail as an extra limb? Oh, but wait, no, this is meant to be a beluga. It should have had a fluke on the end of the tail. Or what about both? A monkey tail with a beluga tail fluke. Now there's a fishy idea. Granted, I'm talking about this thing like it's supposed to be a hybrid, but that's not what it's meant to be. It's a mistake. They were trying to make a T-Rex, but mutations went horribly wrong, which resulted in this abomination that only vaguely resembles a dinosaur. But that ain't gonna stop me from calling this thing Belugasaurus Rex because I think the name sounds great and it really looks like a beluga whale. You can't convince me otherwise. But jumping back to the sculpt for a bit, I really like the snake-like textures that are found on the lower jaw in comparison to the more, dinosaur-esque kind of feeling on the top. With all the scales and the bumps and the wrinkles. It's just, again, it's a really nicely sculpted dinosaur toy. And the articulation on it is okay. The left front limb can move forward and back, and with the way that this thing is positioned, you actually can lift that upwards without it falling over, which is quite nice. The right arm is mostly tied to the articulation, but there is a joint at the elbow which is posable, which allows you to aim for when you trigger the action feature. But we'll talk more about that when we review the action feature. The back legs are attached to very strong ratchets, ensuring that the stability on this guy is going to last for a very, very long time. But that's it for articulation. The rest is tied to the action feature. By pressing this button located on the tail, allows the sound. What's going on? Where are the sound effects? Oh, that's right. This is the first Mattel dinosaur toy to feature something that should have been on the past Therizodosauruses, an off switch, as well as having two different on settings. One mode basically makes it so that whenever you push that button, this thing is just going to vibrate regardless of when you let go of the button. It's just, you press it and it vibrates as well as roars. But switching from I mode to X mode adds a bit of a delay to the shake so that you can time it with the roar. And honestly, that is a pretty cool feature right there. And I really wish this on-off switch was something featured on some of the previous Mattel toys, like certain Roarivores, the Theory, or just any dinosaur where you nudge them and then they just wail like you just punched their gut or something. But the fun doesn't stop there, because this thing has one additional action feature. Rotating the tail allows you to move the whole body and have the right arm just go into a punching or swiping action, which is, admittedly, really cool. Now, most of you may look at this and think he's being super aggressive and attacking, but in reality, I'm pretty sure he's just saying he's having a rootin' tootin' good time. But now it's time for some size comparisons, starting with Minecraft movie Jack Black. And now you can see just how big this dinosaur toy is. But to stay on brand, here it is compared to the Hammond Collection Ghost, showing that this thing, yeah, he does tower over raptors. And for the general size of Roarivores and whatnot, here he is next to the Super Alpha Rajasaurus. Now, I don't think this thing is meant to be in scale as much as it is in the movie, because that thing towers over everything except sauropods, so but you know what, yeah, it's already a pretty expensive toy. We don't want it to be even bigger. But now it's time to actually compare this thing to some Rebirth toys, as enough time has passed that I'm pretty sure most of you have collected some of these and added them to your collection already. Now here it is in comparison with the basic Spinosaurus, and while this isn't my favorite Rebirth toy, I gotta admit that this version scales quite nicely with the D-Rex. Like, the electronic one is way too big compared to it. I also think the electronic Rex would be also too big in scale with this D-Rex. Speaking of T-Rexes, here's the previously reviewed Lab Lockdown T-Rex. And again, this version of the T-Rex scales really nicely with the D-Rex. While they're both here, who do you think is gonna kill the D-Rex? The Spinosaurus or the T-Rex? Now in stores, the Tail Thrasher Spino, when you bring it to checkout, is labeled as Hero Dinosaur. So I think the Spino is, wait a second, what am I talking about? This video is coming out on the day it releases. You probably already know how the D-Rex dies. But please don't tell me how it happens in the comments below, because I'm a lizard. I'm not allowed to see it until it comes out on DVD because I'm not allowed in theaters. But as for some final comparisons, here it is with some of the earliest Rebirth toys to come out, the Bite and Blast Moza and the Aerial Ambush Quetzalcoatlus. Scaling is definitely out of whack here. The Mosasaurus is supposed to be titanic, and I don't think the Quetz is gonna be able to look at the Distortus in the eye. But again, to make sure the D-Rex is actually affordable, they do have to nerf its size quite a bit. That's just how it is. Now to answer the question, is the Rumble Rampage Distortus Rex really worth getting? I'd say yes, because it is the newest big bad of the movie. You need to have it in your collection. However, in terms of Belugosauruses, this is not your only option. There's a smaller one that comes in a multi-pack with a few characters, Dolores, and a raft, which is probably as basic as the Spinosaurus that we already have. And there's a remote control one that can actually run around. Now, we don't have the other two, so we can't say which is better. But availability-wise, this is probably the one you're gonna see in stores the most. But remember, this thing will one day come to the Hammond collection. So I think the smartest thing to do is to find the playset. It's probably a lot cheaper than this guy, and since it's a much lower quality Distortus compared to this one, you're not gonna feel too bad when you eventually replace it with its Hammond collection counterpart. Also, it just comes with more stuff, so it's like, it just makes it more worth it. It's a value pack, you know? But if you just want a really cool toy that works right now and just available in stores wherever you walk in, then yes, I do recommend this guy. But what do I know? I'm just a random lizard on the internet. Don't spoil the movie for me, bye!
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video from beginning to end. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and join the Zainreborn community. See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.